Welcome to Change Your Focus, a mindfulness podcast designed to inspire and center you. I am Dr. Sayiba Aiko, your host and transformational life coach, life integration specialist, and mindfulness practitioner. As a sickle cell warrior, my journey to educate myself on natural and holistic health practices was inspired by my personal health challenges. My career path eventually led me to becoming a certified life coach, supporting individuals as they discover their purpose, transcend health challenges, and live authentic lives. Join me every week as I guide you through a 10-minute breathing meditation and insight session that will leave you feeling relaxed, refreshed, and de-stressed. Greetings. Happy 2024 and welcome to episode 1 of Change Your Focus, a mindfulness podcast designed to inspire and center you. I am Dr. Sayiba Aiko, your host and transformational life coach, life integration specialist, and mindfulness practitioner, here to help you transform your life one mindful decision at a time. I'm also here reminding you to be mindful of the products you put on and in your body, as well as the products you use around your home. Thank you for tuning in to the first episode of Change Your Focus. I'm extremely grateful for your support. If you found this podcast through social media, please share which platform in the comments below. Also, remember to like, share, and subscribe on all social media platforms to follow my journey. Now, I'd like to take some time to introduce myself and share candidly about my trials, triumphs, and journey to mindfulness. Then I'll lay the foundation for this podcast by giving you a weekly format. Before we begin, let's take a mindful breath. So right where you are, I invite you to settle in, make yourself comfortable, and begin to tune into your breath. We'll take 3 deep breaths. Inhaling deeply and slowly, and exhaling deeply and slowly. 2 more times. Inhale, exhale. One last time. Inhale, and exhale. Awesome. Great job. Thank you for being here again. So I want to begin with my journey. There are many things that I've endured that have led me to be right here, right now. From abandonment and rejection from my biological father, to sister wound, to mother wound, to becoming an overachiever, and eventually learning how to release the need to perform. This was definitely a lifelong struggle of mine that I'm so glad that I've overcome. And I'm grateful that it's led me to helping others like me who grapple with overachieving, being perfect at everything. And so I look forward in these episodes to sharing with you the tools, the mindfulness practices that have served me to come into the present moment, to tune in to who I am and know that I am enough and I don't have to overachieve. Also, I'd like to share about my sickle cell journey. As you all know, I am a sickle cell warrior, and a part of that journey is simply learning how to deal with the physical limitations that come whenever they come, right? Sometimes it's unpredictable, and that has been a challenge in itself. And so I would love to share with you all more about that. And through each episode, you'll hear a little bit of my journey with sickle cell and being a warrior, and knowing that whatever dis-ease you may be going through, again, mindfulness, being able to come into the present moment, take a deep breath, tune into your body, will and can help you deal with whatever pain and challenges you experience and help you transcend that and thrive no matter what it is you may be feeling. And I want to share with you all my gratitude practice. I enjoy giving gratitude each and every day for the things that I'm blessed with, right? Knowing that there are challenges throughout each and every day, but when I show up and I find things to be grateful for, it just makes the day better. It makes whatever I feel like so heavy and so hard, really it helps me see, oh, life is not as bad as it seems in this moment. So really sharing that gratitude practice with you all. Also sharing and letting you know that whatever other mindfulness practices serve you, I would love for you to take them with you. I find journaling to be amazing and beneficial. And so I hope you will too. It's given me lots of insight, and I enjoy going back and looking at where I've come from and looking at, am I on the right path, the aligned path to get to where I desire to be? And so with that in mind, let me just, start with being a child, growing up with sickle cell disease, growing up in the South. I'm a native Houstonian, and being in church a lot. We spend at least 3 days a week in church, my family, and what I saw most is this strong faith that my family exhibited. There was a lot of prayer, praying for any and everything from meals to, before we left home, actually, my father would stand at the front door with us and he would pray. And so it just gave me a really firm foundation and believing in something beyond me, beyond my physical limitations here on this earth. And that laid the foundation for my spiritual journey. And so very grateful for that, grateful for Christianity, and grateful that eventually I learned more about it and learned what it was really about, which was the relationship that you have with the higher being, whatever that is for you. For me in this practice, right, it was Jesus. That was my God. And so learning that it was about the relationship with God versus all the other ins and outs and technicalities that you learn, the rules, that's what it is, rules and regulations that you learn in religion, right? It wasn't about that. And so I learned that eventually. And so that freed me up and helped me go on a real spiritual journey and learn where and what God really is for me and not what I've been told based on religion. And so that's also part of my journey. And you'll hear bits and pieces throughout each episode as well as to how I connect now, and knowing that mindfulness in itself is a spiritual practice. It is. You're tuning into yourself and all that is, and knowing that you're connected to all there is, which means that's within you and the next being and anything else that you encounter, any life, right? So really love that practice. And then I will also be sharing important figures in my life throughout my journey that have been really impactful, like my dad and my mom, my first grade teacher, Ms. Branford, Miss Phillips, my high school teacher who heard my cry for help, my Uncle Anthony, and many other people. So you'll hear these names and all that they've done for me just by being their authentic selves, by being consistent, compassionate, connecting with others, seeing me, and just being their unapologetic selves. And so that's helped me to become who I've become. They've taught me that just in their very being. So very grateful for that. So with that being said, let me continue with my journey. So again, growing up in this Christian household and learning Christianity, right? Learning how to be good, how to be right, how to pray, all these things that really set the foundation also for this perfectionism that I learned, right? Because there was a right way and a wrong way to do things, to show up, to be seen. And so that laid the foundation for that. There were so many things. And so in my world, I literally thought that my life was perfect. I had that belief. My appearance, everything seemed perfect, right, on the exterior. However, that was not the case. It just appeared that way. And so fast forward to being in high school, freshman, my parents divorced. That was a major turning point for me. That, again, set the stage for me beginning to develop my personal relationship with Source, with God, all there is. Before, I would turn to my dad all the time. I would talk to him. He was my emotional support. He listened to me. He, just made me feel special. He heard my voice, right? He was really good at that. And so I would always go to my dad. And then when this divorce happened, it helped me see that both my parents were dealing with it in the best way that they knew how. And I didn't feel like, I didn't want to burden them, right? And so I was like, I need help. I don't know how to do that. And I cried out for help. I mentioned that earlier. In my journal in theater, we would have to journal, and journaling came to me in high school. And I journaled. I cried out in that journal for help. And my theater teacher heard me. And she called me in, and she got me into this counseling group at the school. And that helped me really see that, things are not as bad as they seem. It helped me to process what was happening, right? The loss. And again, on the other end of that, I learned to really pray and not just do all the things that you have to do in Christianity, right? Like go to church, show up. But I learned at night when I was really sad to talk to God instead of like going to my dad. And I developed this beautiful relationship, and I felt so seen and loved and supported by something bigger and greater than me. And so that sparked my spiritual journey. So I wanted to talk about that. And that helped me, right, in those moments where I felt alone. I knew deep down that I wasn't really alone. And that was awesome. That was really amazing. And so, So then I'd like to talk a little bit about my schooling and what that looked like, again, with sickle cell disease, right? So there were many times where I would miss school. I was in and out thanks to hospital visits, sometimes hospital stays. And I remember one time I was in the hospital for a month, and I was released. And then the next day I went back for another month. So 2 months out of school. So just imagine, right? Like you're a young child, you're making friends or attempting to, but then you're away from school, right? And nobody knows where you are. Nobody knows what is going on. So it made it really challenging to develop friendships that felt real, where, I actually felt like I knew them, they knew me, I could trust them, they could trust me, because sometimes I just wasn't there. And then when I was, sometimes maybe I wasn't feeling the greatest. So that was a challenge, right? And then maturing, growing older with this dis-ease, right, also showed up in work areas that just made it challenging, in relationship, in so many ways. It was just a really heavy burden, and I had to learn to navigate that on my own, because I don't think my parents really understood, right, how to support me, or that I even needed that support. And as a child, I don't know that I knew how to verbalize that. So I just learned along the way, like how to get by, how to do what feels good. And finally, as an adult, I was able to lean into mindfulness and learn how to say the things I need to say to the friends that I have, and develop friendships that feel real for me. But that took a really long time for me to get there. That was a challenging burden for sure. And so I will be sharing more about that in these episodes, right? And so hopefully you will find this information useful, whether you or a loved one may be grappling with dis-ease or illness. I'm just learning how to cope and feel good on a daily basis, but most importantly, communicate what is going on with you. Share with others who love you and want to support you. And then last, I want to talk about I mentioned a little bit about my job and career with sickle cell. And also I want to talk about finding my purpose, right? Like my passion through my journey. When I was journaling in high school, I remember journaling that I wanted to be at a job where I could travel, because I'd taken 2 trips when I was younger. Once I was in middle school and I traveled to LA and I loved it. The plane ride, all the things was very exciting. And then the second trip that I took was an international trip. And that was when I was in high school. And I remember just loving it, right? Like being away in another place, in another country, seeing how differently they did things that we would think were wrong, right? As Americans. I mean, for me, like seeing it, I had no idea. And it helped me see and perceive that, oh, there's more than one right way to do a thing. And so it just really broadened my perspective and I loved it. And so I remember journaling, I want a job where I can travel and see the world. And sure enough, right? Fast forward years later, and I didn't even realize that I'd written it so long ago that that's what I wanted. But fast forward to me graduating from grad school and being recruited by a top oil and gas company in the industry to be a compliance analyst. And in that job, I traveled 50% of the year. So how amazing was that, right? Being able to travel around. And not only that, I thrived through my dis-ease. And in those 6 years of working for that company, I did have one episode, one crisis while I was there. And so that was interesting in itself. And I'll talk about that in one of the episodes. But yeah, it was an amazing experience. And so realizing, okay, I've gotten to travel now, but also realizing I don't really care for this job. Like I'm not fulfilled by it, right? I do enjoy the traveling and I am doing accounting, which is what my degree was in. However, I didn't feel alive. And I remember driving to work and thinking, I don't want to be like these angry people on the road with road rage. I want to really be excited about where I'm going to in the morning and be excited about the work that I'm doing. And so I decided to leave and then I became an educator. And that definitely was passion for me, like me fulfilling something that I'm very passionate about. And also learning years later that my dharma is actually to teach and nurture. So it was the perfect job for me, right? Being at this high school, being able to teach high schoolers business as well as nurture them, it felt amazing, absolutely amazing. I love the experience, met so many amazing people, parents. Granted, there were challenges, let's be clear. Not everything was perfect. However, I had the endurance because I was passionate about it. And it was my purpose. So no matter what came up, whether it was parents who gave me a challenging time or administrators or even students, I was able to get through that in ways that felt good for me because I knew that I was on task, on assignment, on purpose. And that in itself was everything. And that gave me lots of energy, more energy than I ever knew I had. Actually, I would sometimes stay awake really late and wake up early, and it just went on. And it was not taxing on my body. I did not have any issues with health. However, I did, out of my 5 years being there, 5 years working there, I did have a crisis. I had a sickle cell crisis. And that started, it was an off period. That's what it was. I was off that period and I ended up getting sick and going to the nurse's office. And that was my first crisis. And not only that, but it was the end of my tenure there. And so, for the most part, I was able to manage my health there as well. So no real issues. And that's the second job, right, after graduating. And then now, before I fast forward to now, I then left that high school, right? And I taught for 3 years at a middle school in California. And that was not ideal for me because it was middle school. And I used to say like it takes a saint to work with middle schoolers. I would always say that. And I was like, that's not the job for me. However, I found myself teaching middle schoolers. And so I had a lot of fun. There was lots of love. And also I know that it was more challenging than high school because I had to endure with parents who may not have actually had their children's best interests at heart. And that was the most challenging part of that job for me. However, I enjoyed it for being able to teach, being able to nurture in a way that I wasn't with high schoolers, right? And that was enjoyable, being able to nurture middle schoolers. And so during my time there, my 3 years, I may have had a few minor issues, but I didn't have any major health issues where I had any crises or had to leave work or anything like that. So it was a great time, actually. And then you all know the pandemic occurred, and so I was able to teach online, those same students, and that felt really good, being able to teach online, be at home, and in the comfort of my own home with my own energy, being able to have more of my spiritual practices come into play. And so that felt really good and supported for me. And so I remember thinking, okay, well, I'm going to now start my business as a life coach. Once the pandemic has, once we're back to work, right? Once we return to work and the classroom, I'm going to start my business because this feels good, being at home. And I can teach as a life coach, right? I can nurture as a life coach. And that is still what I'm doing, fulfilling my purpose. It just looks a little different now. And I love it. Absolutely love it. I love the different types of clients that I have versus, the same students in the classroom setting. It's completely different. And it feels good. I'm learning a lot from each and every client. Some are from different places in the world, and that is amazing in itself because, again, I'm learning things that I wouldn't have otherwise from them, and so that feels good. And then also being able to help guide them and learning different ways to guide different people through. Sometimes it's the same thing, but they're different solutions for each person, and so that feels good too. It's expanding me as a life coach, and I love it. And they inspire me. My clients inspire me. Seeing them make bold moves. We start our journey, and it's 12 sessions, and they just share, right, where they want to go. And we set a plan, and we see, okay, how do we get you there in these 12 sessions? What feels good for you? And it feels good. It's exciting to see them at the end of that journey. And it's really exciting to hear them, and reassuring to hear them say that they enjoyed the support, knowing that if it wasn't for this program, then perhaps they wouldn't have made it to their desired outcome. So that is what really feels good. So I'm really glad and grateful that I took a leap. And yeah, I bet on myself, and that felt really good. It feels really good. And even now, right, this podcast showing up, something new that I was inspired to do. Again, thanks to my clients, taking a leap of faith, having courage to do this. This is new, and so I hope you like it. So far, I'm enjoying this process of telling you my story, and I really look forward to getting into each episode and sharing mindfulness practices, really hoping that you will glean from this ways to thrive in your own life. When things get challenging, when things get tough, when you feel anxious, when you feel stressed, knowing that I have these tools, thanks to this podcast, where I can go, I can take a deep breath, I can be still, I can be mindful, I can meditate, and I can see clearly what's going on here and make a wise, conscious decision that's going to push me further in the direction I wish to go and create the reality I wish to create, and know that this rough moment is only temporary. So thank you for tuning in, listening, engaging, and being mindful with me today. Namaste. If you found this podcast through social media, please share which platform in the comments below. Also, remember to like, share, and subscribe on all social media platforms to follow my journey.